Final Fantasy VII fans fell in love with the remake that released last year, but the conversation of how will this translate into a multi-part series has never really gone away. The remake's co-directors have some encouraging thoughts to share. Also, GTA 6 rumors begin flying around. How seriously are we to take these leaks? All this and more on the Daily Reset. Good morning, gamers, and welcome to the Daily Reset, brought to you by the Emergent Gamer. Subscribe and tune in every morning to get all the biggest news stories as you start your day. This is your news for July 6th, 2021. In a July 2nd interview with IGN, Final Fantasy VII Remake co-directors Motomu Toriyama and Naoki Hamaguchi chatted about the future of the multi-part remake. While much of the discussion was focused on the experience of bringing the character of Yuffie into the game, there were some very interesting remarks about what we can expect for the second installment. Hamaguchi says that, as for improvement, or should I say change, moving forward, because the next installment will involve Cloud and company to leave Midgar and explore the world map, our next challenge will be to create gameplay that leverages the vastness of the world, unlike what we did in this current title. He compares the experience of the first game to being like a movie through gameplay, and this could be referencing the linear nature of the remake so far, and heavily implies a much more open style of gameplay. This lines up with what director Tetsuya Nomura said a few months ago, that Cloud will be running around a lot of nature. The atmosphere will be quite different than Part 1. These are only very tiny hints of what's to come for the series, but there does seem to be a dedication to preserving the experience of the original while also elevating it for the current generation. And if Square can handle the rest of the installments with as much care as the first, then the fans will be in for a wild ride. The Grand Theft Auto 6 rumors have been picking up recently. It's important to note that these are all truly just rumors with very little hard evidence, but the people in the conversation so far are some well-respected voices in these circles. An industry insider by the name of Tom Henderson posted a video at the end of June that dropped a few claims about the future release of GTA 6. Mainly, that it would release in 2024 or 2025, and that it would be a return to Vice City, Rockstar's fictional version of Miami. This Vice City, besides having a map updated for current gen, will expand and change, similar to how Fortnite's map changes with new seasons. Henderson was previously spot on with his predictions about Battlefield 2042, so much so that his Twitter account was suspended by DICE back in February for what he leaked at that time as Battlefield 6. So now that he's posted this GTA information, what do people think? Well, Jason Schreier of Bloomberg and Andy Robinson from VGC followed up with their own comments after the info dropped. Robinson said, "This also matches what VGC has heard about the next GTA game from its own sources," and Schreier replied on Twitter with, "Everything Tom Henderson has said about the game matches up with what I've heard." Last September, the biggest acquisition in gaming history was announced: Xbox buying Bethesda. This was a $7.5 billion deal that saw some of the biggest names in game development, such as Bethesda, ZeniMax, id Software, Arcane Studios, and more, all become first-party Microsoft studios. This has already led to massive growth of Xbox Game Pass platform and guaranteed ecosystem exclusives for massive upcoming titles like Bethesda's Starfield. On the recent 500th episode of IGN's Podcast Unlocked, head of Xbox Phil Spencer was the guest. While much was discussed over the hour-long show, Spencer did shine some light on the history of the deal and how it was effectively years of discussions. When asked by Ryan McCaffrey to talk about the origin story, here's what Spencer said.
To give some context to your origin story, Robert and I had those discussions a few years earlier as well, and just in terms of where his journey was and the journey the teams were on there. So this was a discussion that didn't just come about in months of time. This was over multiple years, and we just finally found the right opportunity for both of us, from both an economic standpoint, from where the teams were in their journey, some things we could do to help support some of the new initiatives that the teams at ZeniMax wanted to go off and do. But yeah, to think about it, still less than a year ago, and here we are just closing such a showcase.
Spencer also talked a little bit about Robert Altman before giving his answer. Robert Altman was the CEO of ZeniMax, the parent company of Bethesda, and he passed away unexpectedly in January. Spencer expressed how he regrets that he isn't around to see the first joint Xbox and Bethesda E3 presentation that happened this year. And in a final story that dropped right before the release of this episode, Nintendo officially announces its next version of the Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo Switch (OLED) model. It's been long rumored by many competent industry sources that Nintendo was going to release a Pro-level model this year, and it appears this is what we're getting. The Nintendo Switch (OLED) model has a larger, more vibrant 7-inch OLED screen, a wider adjustable stand, 64 gigs of internal storage, a LAN port built into the dock, and upgraded speakers for enhanced audio. A spokesperson for Nintendo confirmed to The Verge today that Nintendo Switch (OLED) model does not have a new CPU or more RAM from previous Nintendo Switch models. We'll have to wait and see if any more information comes out as to why this was missing many of their rumored hardware upgrades, or if the global computer chip shortage had anything to do with it. The console is slated to be released on October 8th of this year for a suggested retail price of $349.99. That's going to be it for Tuesday, July 6th, 2021. Subscribe on your favorite podcast service to get up to speed in the gaming world every morning with me, your host, Trip Zero. And be sure to find and listen to our main show, the Emergent Gamer podcast, live on twitch.tv/emergent_gamer on Wednesday nights, and then on podcast services the next day. Get the news with me and hear the in-depth discussion with the rest of us. I'll see you tomorrow.